the state of general auto repair shops in the U.S. PartsTech survey. This is what, second year they've done this? Is that correct?
I think maybe third.
Third?
Might be third, yeah.
Tons of really cool analytical data. Where do you think they get all this analytical data from? You think it's from their users? Where does it come from, David?
I think they have to call or make, give them a link to
like a
online survey
they fill out.
But some of this they might just be pulling from the user data,
right,
on the back end. So I don't know. Let's go through
Very powerful data. Yeah, let's do it.
You're saying that you haven't looked at it.
No,
this is a blind react.
Last year the data was very powerful, so why would you think it wouldn't be very powerful this year?
You don't know how to read, Lucas. Get out of here. That looks like not a shop owner. I just want to point this out. No shop owner looks that happy to also be working on the car. I'm just going to point that out. Any shop owner has to work on the car is not going to be very happy. They're going to be grumpy AF that somebody called off, they lost a tech, or they had to fire a tech, and now I got to be standing here messing with this car. That looks like a happy tech.
Is there anything that indicates to you that would be a shop owner?
There's shop owners that dress like that. What are you wearing? You're wearing a uniform right now. I'm in a hoodie or zip-up hoodie.
It's because of the events of Friday. You're still having to lounge around a little bit.
This is my uniform. This is what I wear to work every day. I have to have like 4 or 5 layers. I'm cold every day.
Anybody is going to believe that you go to work. Like my wife asked me, she said, so like you work a lot in the shop and you help with the family business stuff. She's like, well, what does David do with his time? And I'm like, she's like, what? And I'm like,
David clicks around on the internet all day long.
Yeah, right. David doesn't go to work. David doesn't even go to the shop anymore.
I go to the shop in the mornings.
You're a perfect absentee owner, right?
I know. I go to the shop in the mornings, and
okay. We need to clarify this. Are we going to the shop that doesn't have anything in it except garbage and cars that are piled up that were abandoned years ago, and like nothing actually happens there? So you go to the
there's trash, piles of empty bottles of drinks, empty bottles, piles and piles of empty bottles, and cars. No. So these cars run, except for one. 2. No, so we moved a bunch over here. But we had a bunch of cars over here that did run that just haven't been registered. They're loaners. They're ready to go. The DMV's a nightmare.
One? Did the dude ever come get his one car back? Because it was sitting there like 3 years ago?
They've all been here. They've all been here. So this was the lady that abandoned her head gasket, or blown head gasket, Hyundai. It's still here, disassembled. Just sitting there. We tried to reach out to her and said, can you just get us the name of the finance company and they will pay the bill to put this car back together, fix it, and then turn it back into the finance company, because she's not paying on the car. She's abandoned the loan.
So at this point, you kind of stole the car.
At this point, this car is being searched for by the finance company. And so maybe if this video blows up and there's 1.2 million views, somebody will track down this finance company is looking for this Hyundai Santa Fe 2014 white.
I'm just saying, like, there's a process for doing that, though, right? Like, did you follow the legal process?
Legal process for what? She abandoned the car. It's just sitting here disassembled.
North Carolina, there's a legal process I have 10 days to perform.
To do what?
I have to file paperwork if it's left here more than 10 days.
We're in the free state of Kansas. They don't give 2 Fs about abandoned vehicles.
Surely there's a piece of paperwork somewhere.
I guarantee you they ain't. I guarantee you they ain't. What's the point? Like, so somebody abandons the car. It's been sitting there. You can't just call the tow company and say, hey, come get this car. It's been sitting. Okay, well, that's what I do. If the car's been sitting here.
Then they go send the paperwork.
Well, they send the paperwork so then they can either file for the title or get rid of the car and get some money out of it.
But like,
they're trying to get
the same paperwork.
Oh, no, I get that, but that's assuming I want to keep this car. I don't want to keep this car.
Well, I mean,
I want them to pay me to put it back together so they can drive it out of here. That's what I want them to do.
But wouldn't it be easier to either call the tow company or fill out the paperwork, and then like you could have the car out of the or? No,
I could
listen. I understand.
Here's where it's stuck.
You don't need to say anything else.
No. Hold on.
I completely understand. If you move that car out of there, then you actually have to work in that shop.
No. That's not it. That's not it. It's not like convenient to work over here. The problem is that the engine is out of it. The engine is no, it doesn't have cylinder heads on it, and the engine holds up like 90% of the drivetrain. So if the cylinder head is off of it, nothing is holding it up but some jack stands. And so I can't roll this thing out. I would. If I could roll this thing out and just roll it into the parking lot and then call the tow company, 100% I would have done that. But to do that, I would have to have my tech over here put the car back together somewhat, just like kind of put it back together and then roll it out of here. And like, I just don't want to mess with it. He's going to have to bring tools over here and whatever. Like if somebody's paying me.
Ratchet straps.
Is that going to hold it up?
Yeah.
No. You're nuts.
It absolutely will. 2-inch ratchet straps, 2 or 3 of them, be just fine. Just don't hit any bumps on the way out.
So I'm going to call the tow company and say, hey, the ratchet straps are holding this engine up in place, but please come take this vehicle out of my lot. And they'll be like, sure. We'll put that in the maybe pile. Okay. So hello, shop owner. That looks like a smiling tech. Insights from industry experts. You were not consulted for this, right?
No, I don't think so.
So you're not an industry expert.
Well,
I just want to point that out.
Like we don't need to announce it. We know that to be true.
This is absolutely free. We're going to leave a link in the description so they can download their own copy of it and look through it.
Yep.
All right. Who took the survey? Shop owners, 40%. Some managers, 35%. Service advisors, and then 11% of technicians.
48%, one location.
That makes sense.
2 to 3, and that that 30%. That's like the danger zone that everybody talks about. You don't want to have 2 or 3.
Arun, who was just on the podcast, I think is on to his 3rd location.
He changes his direction like he changes his underbritches.
Well, I think he had an idea concept in his head and it didn't take off, so he just abandoned it quickly and then shifted over to something else that was working. No. He's.
We're going to do the
the
ADAS calibration facility, and
yeah,
you're still holding on to that.
I'm still holding on. Well, I'm still making payments on the stupid ADAS machine. I hate my life. I hate it. I hate it. This is awful.
Let me just put this out there. If you had gone with TopDon, you can buy the equipment, like you can buy the base equipment. You already have the scan tool that can do the calibration, right? There's a bulk scan tools from TopDon, and I'm like, hey, I like these. What I really like about the TopDon scan tool is the customer report. It's probably the cleanest and nicest of any tool I've seen.
Has a very nice customer report. The problem is stupid dongle. Like my dongle went out after a year. Stopped working. Yeah.
You need to mess.
It doesn't connect anymore.
Or Scott. But either way, so like we bought the base ADAS stuff, and I mean it's like what, $6,000, something like that.
Yeah.
And now you can start calibrating the majority of the cars that come in. We had everything we need to do it, but then as opposed to just buying all the targets and all this stuff to do all these different cars, because the majority of the calibrations we do were already scheduled out, and we know like, hey, this is coming. It's going to be in alignment. Hey, the subframe's got to come out of it. Hey, the bumper's got to come off of it. That kind of thing. We just order the targets, and they're here the next day. And so as we calibrate cars and we get what we need, we just order what we need.
And that makes sense. My biggest issue was I didn't have you, but you had set up the Hunter machine with the expectation of doing.
No, I built a bay just for calibration.
And what about the level floor?
Right. That's where I built the level floor, was where we just do those. But even then, we've been using it in all different bays, and it's not ever become an issue. Like it's all been within spec anyway. So it didn't matter.
It doesn't check for a level floor though, does it?
No,
it doesn't compensate
you have to
for
do
it.
the checks yourself. But yeah, I mean, like we've not ever been somewhere that it's so far out. But
so the level floor thing freaked me out so much that I bought the machine that checks for or compensates for it. I shouldn't say it checks. It compensates for it. Right.
David.
So
what happened was, you got into a situation where a salesman sold you on something.
No, get out of here, dude. We went to ETI, Tool Tech, talked to Lesniak, and he was talking, and it wasn't just Lesniak, it was a whole bunch of people that were talking about the future of ADAS, and that it wasn't going to be dynamic, it was going to be more static. Everybody was going to, because it's a more reliable calibration, right? It's more consistent. Okay, fine. And I didn't want to get stuck having to take the car to the dealership. That's a big no for me. These dealerships are awful around here. I cannot trust their work. I don't know if they're doing what they say they're doing. And then you were telling stories about how they were going to these Toyota dealerships and the day machine was broken or whatever. Like they weren't even doing the calibrations properly. They were just checking for codes. Anyway, the whole thing just freaked me out. And so I wanted to get a machine that would compensate for the floor and then do most of the calibrations that I was going to end up doing. So the machine that I got has like 87% coverage with their base and then deluxe kit, and then compensates for the floor. It's a little finicky. They're constantly pushing out updates or whatever. We were taking enough front bumpers and doing enough radiators, condensers, and just BS like that I thought we were going to do a lot more calibrations than we did. Now, we've done some internal calibrations, but am I getting a ton of calibration work? No. But here's the other thing, too, is that I guarantee you that if I started asking customers, when was the last time you had somebody calibrate your accident avoidance system, I would say 99.9% would say, I've never had that done. What are you talking about? And then if the car has any kind of mileage, 70, 80, 90,000 miles, you know that bumper's been off. You know that the car's been aligned. You know nobody's checking service information to make sure that...
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. I'm just saying that you're very impulsive, and it's rarely that you're impulsive. It's just that when you are impulsive, it's usually like a $60,000 or $70,000.
It's $100,000. Yeah. No, it was more than that. So the machine was like 40 or whatever, 45 or whatever. Plus, and you got the financing costs, and because I finance it, right? So you got the financing costs on top of it. So that adds to the cost. But then I leased the location, and that lease total was $150,000 over 5 years. So if you combine the two together, I'm in it for over $200,000.
So what, we got 2 years left?
We have 2 years left. Yeah, $200,000 in the hole, and I think I've made maybe $5,000 in calibrations back.
But I think there's a part of that that's like, hey, I don't feel like working this, so I'm just not gonna do it.
Oh, that's 100% what it is. Yeah. I thought it would come fast and easy, and that I'm like, oh shit, I have to like market this and put energy and like build a website and like do all this stuff. And I don't want to do any of that. I have no passion for it. And that is the one thing I will say I've learned, is that if you do not have your heart and soul into it, don't even bother starting it, because you will lose energy and desire and motivation so quickly. And it becomes a burden to you so fast. And these guys that are like, oh, I hate working on cars, but I would make so much more money if I started my own shop. Blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, dude, you hate doing this. It's not a good idea for you to go work on cars, like, or to start a shop, because you're going to hate it very quickly, and it's not going to be a thing. Like, that's a terrible idea.
The reason for doing it is to make money. It's probably not the right one.
But. Yeah, maybe. You really have to love not only helping people, but also helping people with their cars. Like, that has to be the two combined. And then I think a little bit the actual, like, going through the motions of actually fixing the car, and then finding the problem, and then it's fixed, and you pull it out. The car didn't run when it pulled in, and then you pull it out and it's running great. Yeah. That satisfaction has to also be there, because if it's not, oh man, will it drag you into the depths of hell, let me tell you. Anyway,
I'm not going to disagree with you. Looking at this study, I do
33% of 35 to 44.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to talk about.
Oh, look at all the people that are talking about how everybody's aging out and the next generations are coming in and blah, blah, blah.
I think it's because everything from 54 up says, I'm not using technology. I'm not willing to get online and do this.
You think?
I'm burnt out. I don't really care about the industry. I don't really care what the survey says. I think the large majority are saying, okay, I'm making my transition out, right? So I wonder if that's why, if it's just like the type of technology they use to obtain the sample, right?
Maybe. So there's some bias there?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
I think you're probably right. And it's about even on the years.
Yeah.
Over 30. Holy moly. Okay. Years until retirement. 50% of these yahoos started as technicians. Wow. That's nuts.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I think I would be interested in seeing if you took how many years do you plan to retire? I'd be interested to see that split down a little bit. 11 to 20 is a big span, right? And I think if they put some more data in there, 11% no plan to retire, I'm going to say that 11% falls solely in the 50% technician started as a technician, right? Because if there's no plan to retire, I question whether or not they are truly a business owner at that point. I question if they have the knowledge they need, because that 11%, like we all eventually retire. You're going to die in the shop or you're going to retire.
Well, that's not really retirement. Dying in the shop is not really retirement. Right. But here's the thing, like, I don't plan to retire. Do I have a retirement plan? Yes.
Yeah.
Do I plan to retire? Hell no.
Right.
Like, I'm going to work till the day I die.
Sense, yeah, I see what you're saying.
But that's not what this is saying. This is like, they know, no, I don't have a retirement plan. It's like, dude, you can't throw $25 a month into an IRA. Like, that's all it takes. $25 a month. Like, you can't spare that and throw that into an IRA. If you're young enough, you'll eventually get some money out of it. And maybe if Elon saves Social Security, we're able to, maybe you can subsidize that.
It's going to get saved.
I know it's a mess,
but it's tough to save that.
But if you have something in retirement, and if you own your own house too, that helps too. A lot of people have their retirement kind of wrapped up in their house because they bought it early enough, and the house is appreciated in value so much that they can sell it, move into something way cheaper, and then they've got $300,000-$500,000 sitting there that they could live off of for a while, or they can do a reverse mortgage or something like that. But to have no plan is nuts.
That's crazy. I think that would have been a better question. Now, let's look at this. Let's look at the spread of how did they get into the industry. So 70% were doing the job in the shop, right? And then it says out of the 20%, they were parts related roles or grew up in a family owned shop. And I think that's probably going to be the lion's share of that. The shop manager, the 4%, I think that's probably because they say, I see the stress of actually running this place and I'm not interested in the owning it.
I disagree. I think there's the majority of shops do not have a good structure to even have a manager in place. They put a manager in place, but then the owner meddles and he doesn't leave the business the F alone. And he's in there constantly just messing. So you don't really have a manager. You've got a glorified assistant manager.
And I don't disagree with that, but there are things that manager comes in and makes big swinging changes and changes the face of the business overnight. I get that they can be the manager, but sometimes they make bad decisions, right? And so you're looking at it and assuming they're going to make good decisions.
Maybe you don't hire them in if you don't think that they're going to make good decisions. But
I'm saying,
I think the problem,
the manager comes in and changes all the processes and policies in the business and tries to rewrite the book on how the business is ran, or does the manager come in and work off of the processes, policies, and procedures that were already there? And develop.
I think it depends. It depends. So if the owner sets the overall vision, this is where I want to take the business. Okay, this is where I want the business to be. This is how I want the perception of the business to be.
Yeah.
This is our values. This is what's important, and it instills that in the staff.
I'm not going to disagree with you, but
the nuts and bolts of it doesn't matter.
Right? Like you can say, I believe X, and somebody else can look at it and say, well, if you take one leg off of the X, that can be Y. Right? Like it's your perspective. And so they interpret what you say, your values differently. Right? And so Chris and I have had like lots of challenges in that area. And you saw one of them play out in Florida when we were at a training event. It's because like, well, he doesn't feel he needs to tell the client this, and I felt like it was lying by omission. I don't know that one was right and one was wrong. One didn't line up with my values. One didn't line up with my mission statement, and I felt like the other one did. So it's a matter of perspective. I don't think he was wrong, but it's does it line up with what I thought was happening? I'll never forget, you said something to me talking about Mike Allen and talking about how Mike was, he put somebody in place and then he came back and he thought they were doing it the way that he wanted it done, but they were doing it a completely different way and it made a mess out of the business. Right. So you're talking about Mike having to go back into the business after being completely absentee. I'm like, oh, that's miserable. That sounds terrible. Well, same situation. Like, you can't just put this out there and say, hey, go do this, because they interpret it their own way.
Maybe. No. No. You cannot, there's no such thing as absentee. That's not a thing. You have to, okay. So either every policy and procedure is set in place, every single policy and procedure is set in place. And I'm sorry, like 99% of one location small businesses do not have
anything.
Well, it's not that they don't have anything, but they've got maybe just overarching, like general views on things, as opposed to if X happens, then Y. If A happens, then B. It's very structured. And I'm just thinking my days back in O'Reilly land. Everything was very clearly defined.
Yeah.
However, there was a lot of leeway in what I could do and what I couldn't do. And I believed I was doing things that reflected the core values of the corporation in taking care of the customer in the way I felt was best.
Yeah. And
in the situation with Chris, and where he didn't fully explain what had happened to the customer, I would give Chris, and I don't know how involved you were in it, but I would have given Chris the benefit of the doubt in that I would have questioned him. I'm not questioning you on questioning him. 100% you question him. But I need an explanation as to why you did things the way you did. Not, I wouldn't have done things that way. Well, obviously not. You're not that person. We're not the same person. So everybody's going to approach things differently. But I just need justification. Can you just walk me through the steps? Explain it to me in just explicit detail as to why you did it this way. And it could have been that once I had this conversation with the customer was not going to hear, this is what happened and the breakdown and yada, yada, yada. The customer is crazy. Or the customer was living in this weird world where they just were hearing this one thing and they were not understanding what I was trying to tell them. And so all of a sudden, you've had those conversations with customers. It's like they are not listening to you.
Yeah.
And you are trying to explain things to you in explicit detail and they just don't care. And so you have to then reel way back and go, okay, well, I'm just going to give you the 32,000 foot view and that's it. Because they don't want to hear the rest. And they may not be saying that they don't want to hear the rest, but it's just from their responses.
Right. In this instance, what it was is that he was going to send the repair order over to them, which detailed what happened and let them read it. I personally believe in being in control of the situation via the conversation to objection bust and correct that ahead of time. Right. And so I can explain why that's not the case. So they don't then go say, hey, I'm going to tow it somewhere else and get them to look at it to see if it's right. Because then you're backing yourself into a corner.
And so the that's fine. But then that's my point is like, then that has to be policy then. Hey, if you have a situation where we touched something and something else broke, but it was in the purview of what you touched, and it turns into a $4,000 repair previous, now is a $16,000 repair to fix the problem, even if it wasn't your fault, that requires a phone call. You need to make sure that you break the news.
Correct.
And I don't disagree with you. I think I would have required a phone call as well because, hey, Mr. $4,000 you just spent with me, customer, this is now a $16,000 repair. or at best like maybe $7,000 or $8,000 that you're going to have to take the head off and machine it and all that garbage. And so that's a sensitive, delicate conversation. You want to have that on the phone. That's not a, hey, I'm just going to send this out and call it good. But that's my point, is like, then you have to or like outline that in the policies and procedures. Go, this is just what we do here. When it turns into a situation that is this, or this, or something very close to that, I expect you to call a customer and have a conversation with them before you blindside them with a $16,000 estimate. And so these situations like what you're experiencing become, hey, I've created a new policy, and then the manager then just has to execute on that policy. Now they should have some input and go, well, what about this situation, or can I handle it like this, or they're definitely get input from the manager. But everything has to be outlined. That's my point.
Yeah.
If you don't have it outlined, they can then just freewheel whatever they want, and you can't get mad at them because you didn't have anything defined. They're just not doing it the way you want them to do it.
Yeah. I'm with you.
All right. Where they pulled from sort of everywhere. A lot of people up in the northeast, north central.
Yeah.
Some
South
Michigan.
Atlantic got a lot in it.
All right. Let's get into the numbers here. There's a lot of explanations, key takeaways.
Technicians per bay. 0.7 per bay.
0.7 per bay. Okay.
I don't know about you. I've seen a trend lately where a lot of shops are running a whole lot more bays with a whole lot less technicians. Have you noticed that?
That's a good thing, though. You sort of want to just have one technician in 3 bays. That's ideal.
I don't know. Because like you look at the numbers and it becomes unsustainable compared to like if you have the work, if you've got 3 bays, you can do 40,000 per bay. And then if you come out of the other side of that, you can do more than 40,000. But my point is the industry standard is 40,000 a bay per month. And then you come out the other side of that and you're going to say, hey, I got 1 tech in 3 bays. He can't do 40,000 per bay by himself. I don't think that's possible. I think you run out of hours.
If I were a technician, I would want to have 2 bays. But I remember watching something Aaron Stokes did, and he's like, I don't care. Like, if I've got 4 bays, I want 4 technicians.
Yeah.
But you gotta remember that he's in flat rate land, right? So he's going to decrease the efficiency of each technician by sticking them in 1 bay. But he's only paying them for what they produce. So if 1 technician in 2 bays is able to do 60 hours, but then he sticks 2 technicians in 2 bays and they produce 35 each, the guy that used to do 60 out of 2 bays is getting screwed. He's not happy that he's now doing 35 hours, but overall the business is getting 70 out of 2 bays instead of 60. So the business wins. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The numbers make total sense. That makes sense to have 1 technician, regardless, as long as the technician's fairly efficient and able to produce 30, 35, 40 hours.
I think even in an hourly shop, it encourages efficiency, because one thing that I run into with not having a tech per bay is stuff just gets pulled in and left. Right. And then it sits there and they take it apart and then it's not dealt with and it's a thing. Right.
Yeah.
And so that is a frustration for me. I think it can build efficiency into the space, but I'm with you. I think that you need multiple bays. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying I've talked to some shops that have 6 bays and 2 techs, and they're like, I don't understand why I can't do 40,000 a month per bay. Well, because you don't have enough people.
And it's per bay or per tech? It should be per tech, right?
Yeah, for sure. But I'm just saying there's lots of coaches who are saying per bay.
Well, yeah. Well, but again, if you're going off the Stokes thing and doing one tech per bay, then 40,000 per makes sense. All right. Average daily car count, 2.2 vehicles. They must have interviewed a lot of different shops.
Yeah.
A lot of one-man shops, you think?
Dude, I mean, I don't
that's
see why
per
you
bay.
would do more than
that's
3 cars
2.2 vehicles per bay per day.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I'm
and
with
13 average approximately 13 vehicles daily.
That's about right.
Yeah. That's what you need.
6 bay shop.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that, and that's one of my big beefs, right? I got into the comments with.
Well, you gotta say it said if somebody's listening, 40% of shops do not have career pathing opportunities at all.
Right, and so I got into a discussion with a gentleman in one of the Facebook comments the other day, and he was saying I don't want to say he was complaining. That's not what he was doing. We were having a discussion about something I said in an episode where I pointed out that like pay is not the problem. And my belief is that pay is a symptom of the problem, right? We didn't charge what we should have been charging. We didn't create career paths down the road. We didn't, like, as owners, we weren't really running these things like businesses. And the ones that were running them like businesses were flat rate shops, these chain stores, these dealers, right? And so the technicians got burnt out, and we weren't really paying attention to their wages and what it costs to live. And so we got things out of whack. But now if we were to try and increase it to where it should be overnight, it's going to scare every consumer in the world off, right? And so I guess my point is like we don't have a career path for these people at all. And if you want to talk about a major cause for the technician shortage, if there is one, that's one of the major causes right there. There's nowhere to go, right? You just use up your body and you're done. It's like a professional football player. We're just not giving you $40 million a year.
Okay, but I hate the concept, the conventional concept of career pathing.
Yeah.
I absolutely hate it.
I do too.
Like, oh, I'm going to start as a lube tech and then become a general technician and then become a shop foreman and then I'm going to become shop manager and then become the owner. Like, why? I mean, just the concept is so corporatized, and everybody, the normie consumer doesn't understand the intricacies of working in a shop, working on cars in general.
Yeah.
And so they see a guy that started at 22 as a technician and is now 52 and still a technician.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, there's nowhere to move up. And these younger guys that are coming into, or gals, whatever, right? They, thems, whatever, they coming into the industry, and they think that I've got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
You're looking at it entirely the wrong way. You are looking at it entirely the wrong way. If you are talented and capable of working on cars, there are opportunities for you to expand your career that have nothing to do with getting some arbitrary name slapped on the back of yours as like the title of your position within the company.
Right. No, of course not.
What does it matter if you're moved up to some other, like, I'm level 1 tech now instead of level 2 tech?
See, that's not what I'm talking about, right? And that's one of the reasons that I've struggled to do it in my shop, is because I'm talking about things like you do for your people. Okay, let's get a retirement plan in place. Okay, we've got a retirement plan. Let's get some ownership of some property under the belt. What are the steps that have to be taken to do that, right? Like, I'm talking about maybe career planning is not the idea. Maybe career path is not the right idea, but life planning, right? That we as shop owners come in and lift our people up and get them to where they're, through the resources this business has, going on to something much bigger and better in life, right? And that we use the business's resources to accomplish that. And I think that for so long, the profitable shops are using all of their resources to fill their pocketbooks. And that's probably not fair to say, but, and then
dude, they're buying boats. Get out of here.
The one-man shops or the small shops started by a tech, they never even planned for themselves, and they don't have any money and they don't have any way to help anybody. Right. And so that's kind of my thought process. When I see career path, that's what I'm thinking. How do I take you and train you to be bigger, better, make you a better technician, make you a better family man, make you somebody who owns a piece of property or owns a home? How do I make sure you have a retirement? Like, that's what I'm thinking about.
I think having the planning on the financial planning on the back end, I think is incredibly important, because they got to make sure they have a retirement, and let's get you some property, and let's make sure you have a house, and don't spend your money tinkering on your stupid cars, and you're going to drop $15,000-$20,000 at the end of the year on go fast parts for your ship box. Like, none of that makes any sense to me. Okay. Get your shit in order first. Make sure you have a solid retirement plan. Buy a piece of property, even if it's a single rental property, that, and then get yourself in a house, right? Just own something, even if you don't live in it, just own something that's yours, because it's just going to appreciate in value, right? Number one path towards becoming rich in America, the number one path is owning your own home. That is the number one. Absolutely. That is how everybody gets rich. And the majority of people get rich in America when they retire and they're well off. Every single one of them is that's how they got it, is their house.
Yeah.
Even if they don't necessarily put a bunch of money into their retirement and all that stuff, it's through their house. So you got to buy some property. But that aside, just within the automotive industry, you can start as a technician and end as a technician, retire as a technician. And yes, the different types of jobs, or the jobs that you're going to be doing as you progress in age and your body starts to break down a little bit, and that's a whole different discussion. You should be taking care of yourself. But if you don't, and your body starts to break down as you start to age, then you 100% should be transitioning into different types of work. It should be more diagnostic work. It should be more programming. It should be more delicate work. It should be more mentoring. There are opportunities within the industry to teach, to write material, to consult. Look at Fanslow, consultant for ASE, as useless as I think they are as an organization.
Thank you for not throwing me in the same.
I didn't want them to get mad at you. I don't care if they're mad at me. But what he's doing, it makes sense what he's doing. Like, he started a podcast. He consults for ASE. He does like programming and diagnostic work on the side. Like, there are tooling companies that are reaching out to him. He's consulting for them. And what does he do? He works at a flipping shop. He's a technician. Like, he does brakes and stuff. That makes perfect sense. Like, that's what everybody should be aspiring to, is I want to grow up to be Fanslow. Yeah. If I'm going to be a technician.
But here's the thing is, like, I went through the leadership intensive course. You're getting ready to go through it. I like Jordan Peterson and similar talks like that, the old stuff, right? Like, not the new weird stuff, but the original stuff that he got famous with. Go back and watch some of it.
What was it he addicted to? He was addicted to something that barbiturates or something.
But the point is like, all of this comes down to meaning. Right. And that was my message to the gentleman in that post, or in that comment on YouTube, was, yes, money's important, but meaning is more important, right? Like, you're searching for and there's one particular video, I share it with a lot of people, but it's where Jordan Peterson says, like, the meaning of life is suffering and making it better, right? Like, you're not going to solve the problem. You're not going to fix it. You're not going to, like, you go out and you look for said meaning, but there is no, like, defined meaning that you're going to pinpoint in that way. And so you have to make your own meaning, and your meaning has to be, I'm going to make things better than they are. And so it's about finding purpose in something. It's about feeling valuable yourself, but nobody else can do that for you. You have to do that yourself. And I don't think that we've contributed or provided pathways that develop meaning in human beings that work for repair shops.
Benzodiazepine, that's what he was addicted to. He's never been right ever since.
Really?
Also, I disagree with that. It's suffering. You don't alleviate the suffering. Your purpose is to find a way to endure the suffering. That's it.
It is, but his point in that was, right? If you go back and listen to this video, and I'm sure I've sent it to you. If not, I'll send it to you again. But his point is that because he was talking about entitlement, and he was talking about oppression, and he's like, of course, we're all oppressed, right? And you have lots of things in life to be bitter about. But when you realize that life is suffering, if you can take your little portion of that and figure out a way to make things better, like, that is the meaning. That is the purpose of it, right?
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm with that to some degree.
I'll send it to you.
Either way, you can absolutely find meaning in a career within the role as a technician for the rest of your life without having to move up in some arbitrary, like, step ladder to end up getting some new role or some garbage. 100%. Like, get out of here. And us small shops, like, what am I supposed to do? I don't have Like, I don't have 15 locations to make you a general manager over your own location and over 5 locations.
It was a corporate sham. It was like a way to get people to buy into this stupid thing that they thought there was something. And you know, Chris and I told him, I said, hey, you got to change that. He wrote policies, and it was like for assistant this and assistant that and assistant this. And I'm like, bro, stop. I was like, that's like
assistants, bro. That's
right,
you.
This is like super duper corporate, and it's sending the wrong image. It's sending the wrong idea.
Yeah.
And it's could it be effective at keeping somebody on board for a while? Yes, but it's not solving the core problem, right? It's not the solution to say he's an assistant service manager and he's an assistant parts manager and he's an assistant to the assistant parts manager, right? Like, it's just, you could endlessly do that, but it's a title. It doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything. And that's something that hangs a lot of people up. Mm-hmm. I was the same way. So I come from the corporate world. I come into my own shop and I start writing policies and procedures like what I was used to reading in corporate land. Dude, you own the business. Like, write it however the hell you want. Write it the way you want them explained to you. Write them so they're understandable. Like, I mean, maybe you want to have a lawyer or whatever, your HR people, or through your payroll processing company or whatever. Like, you can get some help on things that make sure you don't write something that's illegal. But, like, use common sense and then just write it in plain language. Like, hey, like, I expect everybody to show up on time. There's a policy. Like, if we start at 8:30, I expect everybody to show up on time. What happens if you don't? You could receive corrective action up to and including termination. That's it. You wrote a policy. That's all you have to put on there. Slap it up there. Done. And then just put it on Google Drive or whatever, OneDrive. Pick a service. And then that's it. Give everybody the link and go, here, this is the policy and procedure book.
Make it easy to read.
Who does it apply to? And what do you expect? And then what'll happen if they don't meet those expectations? That's it.
We had a real discussion on that because I felt so bad. I kind of hurt his feelings because he like wrote this whole massive like thing of how everything works. When Rick and I built the workflow for the shop, it was like color coded and it was short and it was just like, if you're a tech, just read the blue lines. If you're an advisor, just read the red lines, right?
Oh,
like
cool.
It was really super simple.
Yeah.
And so he's got like 5 pages, this long diatribe of everything everybody's supposed to do and where to click and what to do and how to do it. And Rick had given me one of those, but he said, he said, everybody I've ever given one of these to, like if you watch them, their eyes glaze over before they get halfway down the first page. Yeah. Like nobody reads it. Nobody cares. Like you got to make it consumable. $120 to $139 an hour. Does that mean
159? 120 to 159.
No, it's 120 to 139 and 100.
Oh, for 26%. Yeah, the majority.
And so that means what? If your effective labor rate. So if you're running
this effective labor rate or is this just posted labor rate?
That's posted. So I'm saying if you're running a shop that doesn't have any other labor rates, right? You don't have a peace of mind. You don't have any of that other stuff. You don't have a maintenance rate. You don't have a tire rate, right? You're just one labor rate. Then that would mean that you can pay your technician a max of $41 an hour or something like that. Is that?
Yeah.
At that range.
Yeah.
And then that's for build hour. So then based on their production, you calculate it.
But that's not realistic. So everybody has the labor rate for oil changes. Everybody's got a labor rate for X, Y, and Z.
So effective comes down.
Effective comes down.
Bill 40 hours every week, and now all of a sudden they've got to be paid less because they're not billing enough hours.
Well, you can only afford less because that's a misconception by technicians. It's like the labor rate's $160 here. Why am I getting paid so little? It's like, dude, the effective labor rate is $99 and I'm paying you $40. Yeah, you're at almost 50% of the effective labor rate. And then how often do you see those stupid comments?
Yeah.
Well, how often do you see those stupid comments on back in my day? We used to get paid 50% of the labor rate. Well, guess what, Zippy? You are probably still getting paid 50% of the effective labor rate. You're getting paid
labor rate between taxes, the cost of employing someone, benefits, everything else. I guarantee you, most shops are paying way over 50 by the time it's said and done.
Yes. So yeah, you're probably getting 50% of the effective labor rate.
Yeah.
But because you don't realize effective labor rate exists, you just see the posted labor rate, you just assume.
Yep.
Also, what in the hell? Who is less than $100? 10% of the shop surveyed are less than $100.
That's rough.
What are you doing?
100 and 119.
I don't know. Like, if you're less than $139 an hour, like, dude, we got to talk. Like, what in the hell is going on? Mm-hmm. You cannot be less than $139 an hour. And here's the thing, like, my base, like the starting labor rate is over that, right? Yep. I'm in the 140 to 159.
Same.
But here's the thing, like, I'm on a matrix. So at 1.1 hours, I'm already higher than my base labor rate.
Right.
And then
at some consumers are going to jump in and yell at us for this, but like they don't, I went back and listened to the Chick-fil-A episode the other day, and your rant over like, oh, that seems expensive is so on point, right? So on point. The Clint White episode, remember? Because you were yelling about God's chicken. It was just so on point because
that was a vision last year,
right? The consumer has zero idea of what the value of this is. They don't know how to interpret that. They just know they don't have that much money, and they don't really want to spend the money they do have on this. So it seems expensive, but they don't understand like what it takes to run the business. And it's like all these posts in the groups where people come in and say, well, what's your labor rate? What would you charge to do this? Dude, you don't even understand. Like A, they can lie, and B, you don't know that the numbers they're telling you are accurate, and C, you don't know what their financials look like and their net profit. And do they have net profit? Do they have overhead? You don't know. You can't compare yourself to somebody else. But half those that are below the 139 mark right there, I guarantee you half those are Oreo pricing. I'm going to be right in the middle of everybody in town, huh? It's a good marketing strategy.
Yeah, they're calling around as though anybody's actually giving them the real labor rate.
I know,
like, get out of here, dude.
My goodness.
Get out of here. And now this is, I love PartsTech, but I don't know who wrote this, but they need to consult me before they write this again in the future. Now, while there are guidelines to help, there's no one-size-fits-all formula. Every shop is unique, and your labor rate should reflect the unique value you provide your customers. But then the caveat, however, it cannot be less than $100. What is wrong with you? That's it. That's all you needed to add in there, and then that statement would have been perfect.
There you go.
All right.
31 to 40% gross profit on parts. Oh my God.
The top selected gross profit on parts per month was 51 to 60%. That's what you target.
You know,
that's not what, like, my top is like 99%. Like, what are you talking about? If you buy a 10-cent bolt, you're not going to mark it up to $1?
I'm in the 24% category, 51 to 60. And here's what I'll tell you is that even with the best management of cores and returns and warranty and whatnot, I'm going to tell you that you are absolutely 100% not getting what's in your SMS. Okay?
No.
And so if you were at 30%, God help us, because you're not actually at 30%. So if
I think
your
I'm
SMS
at 30%
is showing
cost
30%,
of goods sold percentage. I got to look at my numbers and see where I ended up with. It's going to be bad. If it's bad, I'm not going to say what it is.
Hey, listen, you've got to log into my shopware. I need to log into your shopware.
My shopware, I think, looks fine. I'm talking about my accounting.
Oh, yeah. I don't want to see that. I do not want to see that.
Anyway.
So we're not talking about it.
No, it's not that. It's just I'm just trying to move this thing along here.
Done with Care Auto Repair, we don't worry about anything until the bank account hits zero. At that point, we begin to stress and take corrective actions to fix things. We do not look at our P&L, and we do not look at our data from our shop management software.
Well,
I think this things by the seat of our pants.
This thing is saying that I finished with a 10% net operating profit for last year, and I'm just going to say,
to do something about.
I'm just going to say that. IRS, that is not right. Okay, there are some numbers that are missing out of there. I'm going to have to talk to these people. They are nuts. I did not make 10% net operating profit.
Something is very wrong.
Something is very wrong in there. That is not right. I think they added in too much. They added back in. They're like, hey, look at all this random, arbitrary spending, frivolous spending you're doing. There's what? Don't add that back in. That's not profit. What are you talking about? Anyway, it didn't give me a percentage. I got to download the thing, and it's going to take too long. All right. Average repair order. 36% of respondents reported an average repair order between $5 and $750. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
With 250 to 500 in close second. What?
And I think that probably should have been broken down a little bit more, right? Because if they're all $499 and the others, right?
There's a big difference between 251 and 499.
Yeah.
There's a big difference.
Yeah. So I think that probably should have been broken down a little bit. I'm in that 18% category. And feel pretty good about it. I do think that the majority of the industry is not following the 300% rule. I think that's why you're seeing that 34% up there. But I vote if you split 250 to 499 in there, I think you would see that lower end's probably much lower.
Now I question this here. What most positively impacts your shop's ARO? And they said enhanced customer experience. I don't know what in the hell that means.
I think it does.
No.
It should be defined.
No, you don't even have a waiting area. What the hell are you talking about? You just this giant monolith of a building, and your waiting area is like barely like half a hallway with a couple of chairs.
I have some Fred Rogers posters up, and people love it, and they spend more money because they read it from.
This is the misconception that having a goddamn aquarium in your front lobby somehow jacks up your ARO. And I can tell you unequivocally,
have to do with customer experience. Maybe that's for the service.
I have a busted plasma TV in my waiting area and 4 chairs, and I think one of the chairs is used up by some parts box. And in the back, in the corner, I've got a box of old video games. That's my lobby.
There was a video a while back.
My ARO is $1,000. It has nothing to do with the perceived customer or enhance the customer experience. People drop off their cars and they go away.
Look, there was a video a while back that was shared with me. I'm not going to say who it was or any of that, but somebody had watched one of the videos where we talked about like the fish tanks in the lobby. Mm-hmm. And this person says, you know why I got fish tanks in the lobby, right? And this guy's sitting there with his phone out recording at a bar at a training event. And he said, it's so I can go pluck the next service advisor or technician out. You know, they just sit there going all day long anyway. Oh, man. This was like some bigwig management coach guy. I was like, can I share this? Nobody said I could share it. I'm really sad about it.
Upselling and cross-selling services. That is entirely unnecessary. There is no upselling and cross-selling. No. Cross-selling, maybe. Cross-selling is like, hey... Yeah. Let's do some maintenance.
Even then, providing the client information is the number one way you increase your ARO, right?
Using parts matrices.
Yeah.
Whoever responded to these, I'm not faulting PartsTech on this. I'm faulting the responders. They're idiots, all of them. Every single one of the people that, not now, if you responded and you listened to the show, I'm sorry. I'm glad you're listening. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to everybody else.
I'm sure you gave a good answer.
You were none of the above or other. You were in the 6th and 5% down here. Now, service advisor sales training, I 100% agree with that. That will absolutely increase your ARO 100% of the time.
Matrix.
Having a labor matrix and parts matrix will absolutely, you got to have something in place. Your labor matrix, hey, dude, I jacked up my ARO like $200 in 1 year just using a labor matrix.
Yeah, well,
nothing else. We didn't sell any more.
Yeah, that fixed my parts to labor ratio too, right? That did everything I needed on parts to labor ratio. And listen, something that I'm working with Chris on is the maintenance packages, and there's really 2 reasons for that. And one is being that we want consistency in how we recommend maintenance services. Right now, we use the manufacturer's maintenance schedule, and I'm
doesn't always work. Doesn't always work. It doesn't always work.
It's a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
And so if we're going to teach our team like, hey, here's the standard, here's the average of when these things need to be done. Here's how we check them. Here's how we know they need to be done or don't need to be done, and then build packages based around that. So that's something that we are working on, and I'm interested to see what that does.
By the way, the 300% rule will fix your ARO.
Yeah,
300% will fix their ARO. That's it.
You won't, if you do that, you won't have the 250 to 499 category.
No,
it'll drop to nothing.
Yeah, that'll be the lowest number, but you'll get into the 500 plus very easily. I don't know how you end up with $600-700 very easily, but you'll be in the upper range of the 36%, and you'll push into the 750 plus range very easily.
Yeah, for sure.
Some quotes from
look
some
right there.
prominent people. What?
Improper parts markup can cost shop $40,000 to $70,000 in missed profits annually. And so that, I could easily see that, right? For sure.
Yeah.
Oh, look who said that.
Cecil. He knows what he's talking about.
He does.
All right. We don't care what this guy says here.
No. He's okay.
Whatever. He's not even the CEO anymore.
No, he's still
dumped that off to some. I know he's with the company, but he's dumped that off to somebody else. All right. So we fixed the ARO issue. You guys aren't doing the 300% rule. That would fix everything. But I don't know what this guy's doing here. That looks dangerous.
Looks like he's getting ready to melt a torch hose into and have a really bad day.
No, so don't angle it down like that, bro. What are you doing? Out, away from you. And not towards serious, whatever's going to light and fire right there. It's a little too close.
Have you ever burned a torch hose into?
We've rolled over some.
Yeah, without a roll or a blowback preventer, or whatever they call those things. Oh, that's a bad day, buddy. I saw a dude do that one time. That was not fun.
All right, we already went over this. One advisor per 3 bays. I could see that.
Yeah, I could too.
Hire a coach. We're there. By 2035, EVs will make up 26%. I don't think that. Yeah, that's gone.
I was in a meeting the other day with some really smart people, and one of the things that they talked about is what happens. How does the auto manufacturer and their leadership and their engineers, how do they respond to these wild changes? Because day to day, night to night, as these
they pull a Zuckerberg. They pull a Zuckerberg.
What? What's a Zuckerberg? Tell me.
The CEO of Meta?
Well, I know who he is, but what
okay, well, he was cozying up. Biden comes in, and all of a sudden on the back end, they are dictating what he should and should not allow on the platform. And they're telling him, like, hey, we're going to crack down on you. And just so you know, if you don't comply, it's going to be investigations. We are going to take over this.
Yeah.
You need to comply. So he had to navigate that. But the minute that he saw that the tide was changing and that the different administration, he's like, hey, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and it's going to be wide open. It's going to be the wild, wild west like it was in the 2000s. Why? Because that was the direction that the new administration was going. Like, dude's a chameleon. That's my point. He's a chameleon. They just change on the fly.
And the reality is while a population may not move in the right direction, it's a lot easier to go in the flow of where the population wants to go, right? Where the majority wants to go. It's a lot easier as someone who's manufacturing a product, instead of trying to get them to shift in a direction they're not interested in. It's a lot easier to just go with the flow. And it's a lot better for profits if you go with the flow.
Which is why it never made any sense for GM to force EV infrastructure.
I see. That's just it. I think that there's a reason that those car manufacturers were even remotely interested in EV. And I think it has to do with emissions laws and direct to consumer. I'll just say that. I think that there is something there to that.
They wanted to copy Tesla. Mm-hmm. They thought Tesla was going to blow up.
And if you don't sell cars, remember the
problem though is like, yeah, it's an idiotic strategy. Look at Toyota. Who has the number one selling car in America right now?
Toyota.
That's nuts that they're selling more than F-150s. That's insane to me. Anyway, what they never changed their direction, their strategy, their core values, what they do on the daily, they never changed just because the administration was switching from one focus into another. And then they're like, hey, we're going to go all EVs and we're going to force this on everybody. And Toyota's like, we're going to keep doing what we're doing. What are you talking about? Yeah. We pioneered the hybrid. We brought it into America. We made it common, we're going to keep doing that with all our new technologies. We're just going to keep doing what we do. We're going to still be Toyota, as opposed to GM's like, hey, every Cadillac's going to be EV now, and we're going to force EV infrastructure on every single Cadillac dealership. And if you're not going to comply, you're just not going to have a dealership anymore.
I think there was a base root cause for that. I really do believe that the real reason behind the scenes is that they needed a way to separate themselves from some of the dealer networks. And I think because the dealers have become exceptionally powerful, right? Because you got dealer associations. There's a lot of money in many of these, I don't know, is it venture capital, private equity? Like what owns those big dealership conglomerates, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of money involved.
Yeah.
And so you look at RAM and the cafe standard thing, right? Why did they separate? Well, because it was financially not feasible to keep RAM in the brand because of the cafe standards.
Sure.
And so I think that they're thinking ahead.
Which kept tightening up, by the way, just to give some bureaucrat at the EPA a job. Yeah. Just so he could keep his budget. Because otherwise they're like, hey, everything's cleaner now.
Dude,
like, what do we need you for?
The number of people that I know that work in government, it's unbelievable that all of them are saying like, hey, you understand you've broken the system. You've got these budgets. And if we don't spend all of our budget, then we lose budget. And so everybody says, hey, I have to spend more than my budget. And so they're making up crap to spend money on. Yeah. Now, I was talking to Roy a while back. The last administrator of the automotive program in that particular school brought like 10 pallets of PB Blaster. And he's like, we've had this stuff for 25 years, but we had to do it so we didn't lose part of our budget. Where's the logic in this? It's stupid.
Yeah, it's so stupid. We're doing tires and brakes on EVs.
Suspension repairs. Yeah.
We are not. We are doing a lot of diagnostic work on the inverters or something stupid is broken and whatever.
Yeah.
We had to buy some equipment, nothing fancy, but you have to have.
Dude, you can get really everybody was so worried about tooling up for them. They're not expensive. To
gloves, get some gloves, a couple of multimeters. Then the lab scope does about everything else. Like you don't need that much. It's not that big a deal. You need the training. You need the knowledge. That's a bigger deal. Like make sure you're training up for it. But other than that, you're fine. And then these people, they buy these EVs and then they buy shit tires. Like, dude, you got to buy the fancy tires. Like you got to buy the low rolling resistance tires. Like that was part of the deal.
Low rolling resistance, and they have to be rated for the weight.
And they have to be rated for the weight, so they will chew up the tires. Nobody knows this stuff though. They're just like, it's just a regular car, but it's an EV. It's like, no, it's not.
Not confident 39%.
Not confident or somewhat confident. I don't know.
Training received no 71%. Like they're working on these cars. They don't even half of them don't even know they're EVs or they're hybrids, right?
I don't know who Factory Motor Parts does 3 or 4 EV trainings a year. Like it's just introductory garbage, but it's like, what are you doing? Like, get out there and get the training done. Stupid. I don't know. I don't think you have to worry that much about it anymore. Are they going to show up to your shop? Yeah, you're absolutely going to show up they're going to show up to your shop. Just make sure everybody is trained up on at least the basics. Yeah. Safety, right? Just the basic safety stuff. And then just know the stuff about the tires and some of the steering suspension components. Be able to scan the car. That's important. And then the rest was just like, coolant leaks? Like you're going to have a lot of coolant leaks on these stupid cars.
Okay. Go right to 13% because I'm just going to yell about it. Right? I can't.
Limited access to repair information.
I am so tired of this.
Who says that's the biggest challenge in the next 5 years?
Dude, it's ridiculous. It's because everybody keeps saying it. I was on a panel a while back with somebody and they said it and I got myself in hot water because I'm like, dude, I'm not calling you wrong. And he said, well, if you're saying something, you clearly are saying I'm wrong. And I'm like, well, because you're wrong. Right? Like I've not found anything. And owners get out here and they just assume that they're not the ones working on the car. Now, maybe it's that technicians are telling all the owners and service advisors, I can't work on it. I don't have the proper information. Dude, it's available. It's out there.
Do a library request. Do a library request if you have all data, or just go to the freaking website and pay the $30.
Service data. Yeah. That's a big thing for me is because being involved with ETI and knowing what ETI does.
and listening every single year to the same manufacturers get up there and go, we want to give you all the information, every single bit of information we have. We want to give you the training, the tooling, and the information every single year. Every single year they get up there and they do that.
There's 2 manufacturers that aren't involved in that process, right?
Volkswagen is one of them.
No, they're involved.
Are they really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Audi's been there. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
Volkswagen and Audi have been there. I think it's pretty much Tesla, and Tesla's kind of come to the table, but Mercedes-Benz, right? Let's be real.
Oh, Benz, yeah. Well, but that one engineer was there that one year.
Huh?
You remember that engineer was there that one year?
Yeah.
I think it was Austin.
He doesn't work for them anymore. I thought about trying to find him and see if he wants to talk about that, but he's a really nice guy.
Yeah, he was
really
super nice.
Guy.
Super
very
nice.
smart. Very smart. I don't think the grease monkey thing went over very well with him. But either way, I just think that it's ridiculous that the mass of our industry believes that. Now, look, AutoCare talks a lot about this. And I think that maybe there's a mistake in the messaging because people who really know there's no access problems right now. Let's prevent access problems and let's work on a playing field where it's best for everybody because come on now, right? It costs them money to provide that data. It costs them money to provide that information and that tooling.
Do you think that's what they mean? Is that limited access because otherwise I have to pay?
That's exactly what it means.
Andrew Minkler, the smartest thing I've ever seen from a shop owner. I called him one time. This was years ago. I called him one time and I said, "Hey, I'm doing an oil cooler on a 235. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Can you send me over an estimate?"
Yeah.
Of one, because he does mostly BMW or whatever. He expanded a little bit, but he's like, yeah, no problem. He sends me one, and one of the line items on his repair order was service information access.
I remember that.
$35. And I'm like, and they don't question you. He's like, no, what are you talking about? Why would they question me? I gotta have access to the information on their ship box. Either I have it or the car doesn't get fixed properly. And I'm like, man, that is genius. That is so smart. Every single car comes in, you put a line on there and say, hey, I got to charge you for this. That's how you know that I am doing things properly because I'm accessing factory information to your vehicle specifically to make sure that I'm doing things properly.
Did you remember that? You remember the accidental telephone game you made with Andrew Minkler that time? You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. No.
When you started doing the thing where you'd say Minkler, and then from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and then everybody believed it, so they started calling Minkler. They're like, "Hey,
no, it was Seinfeld.
Oh, I thought it was
no, Seinfeld. You know where Seinfeld's like Newman. That was a shtick. Yeah, so I was just Minkler, and I hadn't even talked to the guy. I didn't know him. It was just it was a good name, Minkler. Right. I just wanted to Minkler.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're out of numbers here. Oh, here we go.
What impact was the technician shortage? Not significant at all. That would have been me. I'm like,
yeah, for sure.
Look, if you're a small shop, how many technicians do you have to fill the shop with? 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 at the most, right?
That's fairly straightforward.
Okay, well, that's the issue. It's I only have one position to fill. That's it, one. Now, if I'm the Toyota dealership down the street from me that has 26 technicians, you're going to feel the impact because you have 26 bays to fill. 26. Yep. That is insane.
You got to pay for that building one way or another. Whether you got people or not, it's got to be paid.
It's got to be paid, and you've got the demand, and you've got the workload and stuff. You need those technicians. So it's going to be a bigger deal for you. But if you're a small shop, you have one technician to fill. It's not that hard, dude. Yeah. One. You can't find one technician.
Yeah. Well, and if that's the case, you need to do some serious soul searching because
that's a you problem. That's not a technician shortage problem. What is causing the technician shortage? This should be interesting. Competition from other industries. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. McDonald's is very competitive right now. Flip some burgers.
But
negative perception
they're facing
of
it
the
too. Other industries are facing a shortage too. I had a conversation with a executive at a local community college, a gentleman who works for the North Carolina Community College system, and one of the instructors. And he said, I can give you the numbers. Young men aren't going to school right now, and they're not going into the workforce. We don't have the statistics to tell you where they're going, but they come out of high school and we lose sight of them. They used to go to community college for skilled trades. They used to go to college. They used to go into the career path, whatever it may be. And now we're not seeing it. And I said, so what do you do? Like, where do you get the data? And they said, we're working on it at a state level to begin to pinpoint where exactly they're going and why we don't have good data. But that, I think, is a huge, like, I only think we're at the beginning of this right now. And I don't think it's automotive alone. I think it is, as a whole, our workforce is seeing things very differently than it's ever seen things before.
I think that's going to change. I think that's changing already.
I'm not gonna disagree with you. I can't remember the exact number, but I want to say that during the same meeting, they said 70% of those who were surveyed before they went into community college said they wanted to be content creators.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know how you're going to live on the $14 a month that Facebook gives you. I'm just putting that out there. YouTube, you can make $100 a month.
YouTube's so, like, sending us, YouTube's $150 a month. Yeah. That's good money.
Now listen, Andrew from Rogue Wrenching, he made videos about his house. I guarantee you he got him a $250 check from that bad boy.
There you go.
Dude, I feel so bad for that guy. Oh my gosh.
I haven't watched the videos.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
Contractors scare me. That's why I always freak out hiring anybody. Yeah. Negative perception of the profession. I agree. Negative perception of the profession.
Negative perception of
the profession. It's a little bit of a tongue twister. Get out of here. Low compensation. Those people are nuts. I don't know who. Everybody thinks they're underpaid. I'm underpaid. Hey, Lucas, I'm underpaid.
We're all underpaid.
We're all underpaid. Idiots. Lack of awareness about the profession. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Inadequate benefits.
I think that's probably a bigger one than 10%, but that's just my
inadequate. It's perceived benefits. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what benefits don't you have? You work 8 to 5. I buy you lunch every single week. I take you on vacations. I hand you cash all the time. Like, I buy you nice dinners. Like, you have a retirement plan through the company. Like, you're going to be set to life. I send you every single training. I buy you tools. Like, what else do you need? What else?
Right.
You want hugs too? You want tickle fights? Like, what is it that you need? All the training, limited access training. That's just stupid. What? Dude, it's because you're not looking.
Scanner Danner, like, that's the best training.
Why is your shop not buying you Scanner Danner?
Yeah,
it's not. It's just you watch the free videos.
Yeah. Oh, you can get a ton from that.
Lack of career advancement. We already covered that and other. But I think being a technician is difficult. There's a learning curve. Mm-hmm. It's not easy for the first 3-ish years. It's not easy. There's a lot of mistakes you're going to make. You have to be wholeheartedly committed to learning the job as fast as possible to make it work the first 3 years. But after that, it does get easier. And so I think a lot of the people drop out in those first 3 years because they don't realize how difficult it is to be a technician.
It's a hard job. It
is not an easy job.
Yeah.
But with that being said, there are tons of opportunities for technicians. And the ones that can stick through the first 3 years will make good money and will have a job for forever if they want it, as long as they don't end up like addicted to drugs and alcohol and not showing up to work and breaking everything. It's always somebody's fault. Like, if you don't fall into that like spiral and ruin your life with garbage like that, if you just do your work, go to the training, commit to making yourself better, you will always have a job, and you can command. You can command whatever salary you want.
But it's your attitude. Hey, it seems like, and I could be completely wrong here, but I want to say that I remember you saying right before we started recording that let's try and knock this out in 15 minutes.
So this is going to be like 8 to 15-minute videos. We're almost done. The strategies to find the most effective.
Throw money at
them. Do you
find
them? Throw money at them. Yeah.
And then when the economy falters and you got to yank everybody.
The highest paid ones. Yeah. The highest paid ones. The minute anything turns around in the shop. I don't understand. These people don't understand it. It's like, dude, if you're making 50% more than the next guy next to you, who do you think's going to get fired first the minute the shop stops making money?
Exactly. Exactly. And that's what I was talking to a dealer guy a while back, and he said, you know what they're trading for that extra paycheck? What? Security. Like, they have none.
What strategies do you find most effective for retaining technicians? I think that's far more important than anything else.
Yeah.
Creating a positive work environment, that is so ambiguous. What does that mean? I don't know.
I mean, like, just where everybody doesn't hate to come to work, right? Like, if you away, no matter what that is.
Cecil yelled at me for negative self-talk, and he's like, "Hey, if you walk into your shop saying, 'Man, I hate it here,' every single day, they're gonna hate it there too." And I'm like, "Oh man, you know what? You're right." And so I've been spending.
You've just been telling the whole world how much you hate it.
I know. But I like that's why he called me out. But I'm like, I need to walk in and go, okay, I don't hate it here. I just hate the cars. But I love my staff, and I have a nice little shop. I do have a nice little shop. And I love my staff, and most of my customers are cool. And the fact that I can just come and go and I can jack around on the internet all day long is the coolest thing in the whole wide world. So all that is an opportunity afforded to me that I wouldn't have been able to if I had not opened the shop and stuff like that. So then that aspect is very positive.
I mean,
it's the stress of worrying about the cars though.
You've gone to where you exercise all day instead of spending all day on the internet.
Just in the mornings. Like I cut out the. Yeah, just in the mornings though. But I cut out the afternoon sessions and stuff like that. It messes up my whole day, and like I really don't get any work done because I got to go home, I got to change, I got to get to the gym, and then I got to go out and like I got to clean up and stuff like that. It turns out a whole thing. So I just try to get everything done in the morning, so I don't have to mess with it for the rest of the day. And then I try to get some work done during the day, like actual work. But it's not real work. It's not like I'm working on cars or fixing anything or racking a car or whatever. Like I click around on the internet. That's what I do. That's my job. It's not much of a job.
I'm just curious. What are you clicking?
What's that?
What are you
like
clicking?
Export, and then I got to put it into the editor, and then I got to jack around with the edits, and then I have to normalize the audio and clean it up so it sounds nice, and then I got to make the thumbnail. And then you got to run it through the AI to get the transcript, and then you got to come up with a title. What are you talking about? Don't you think all that takes time? You think these episodes just pop out of nowhere? It's like, oh, look, one just went up. Oh, look at that. They didn't do any of that. No, he had AI do all of it.
I thought Braxton did it all.
Braxton doesn't do jack. I don't know what Braxton does all day. I send him a paycheck every single month. I don't know what he does.
I wish I did too.
No, he does it. His shows are very good, and the people he's been getting on, very impressed.
Yeah,
very impressed. Sure. That whole Yahoo thing, the Yahoo Finance reporter having that conversation, 10 out of 10, dude.
Yeah,
kudos to him. What a great job he's doing there.
Oh yeah, I know. I do like to give him a hard time though.
It's career pathing, retaining technicians at your shop. Moderately important. Okay, that makes sense. That should be a no. Because I think we debunked at this point career pathing in general. Like you need to completely reconceptualize all that. All of it. How often do you discuss career advancement opportunities with your technicians? As often as I talk to them. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Yahoos. Let's not get apathetic about our jobs. That's important. You got to walk in and make sure they don't turn apathetic towards their jobs. Okay. Anything else we want to cover? What types of career development opportunities you offer technicians? See, that they covered this. Advanced training and certification. Yeah, absolute specialization in specific career repair or diagnostic. That is 100%. That is what they should be viewing as career pathing. How do I go from a shit mechanic to a competent one to an elite one? And then what does become an elite technician afford me? Am I outgoing? Do I want to do training? Do I want to do consulting? Like there's so many opportunities out there they could be moving towards. They just need to like expand their horizons a little bit in the way they think about what they can do with the skills that they have.
I agree. I don't disagree with you at all. And like everybody wants to be going somewhere, right? We all want to be getting better. We hope that showing up in the mornings is accomplishing something. And it has to have meaning for us. We have to be doing something for ourselves, for our families. And if there is no meaning to it, and I don't know that certification is the way to do that, but I think it's better than all the other options we got.
Do you share financial information with your technicians?
Yes, I do.
I do it in by way of socks. So if I walk in and then my socks have holes, they know that we're in dire straits. But so they check my socks. I'm not kidding. Ask my technicians. They check my socks. Today,
hey, when they start checking your underwear, I'm really gonna be worried.
Today, holy socks. Holy socks. This is a little tight right now.
We did. I don't think I'm capable of an apprenticeship program. I just don't think I'm there.
What you need to, it is a lot of work. You need to have like teaching shops.
Yeah.
The schools are, I guess, but you got to have teaching shops. I don't know. It's got to be YTech, but like slightly different model than what UTI and YTech and all those kind of schools used to do or still do, whatever. Like it needs to be slightly different. I don't know.
It doesn't use shop management.
3% doesn't use shop management software. I don't even know what to tell you. What software do you use other than a shop management system, accounting software, parts ordering software? Only 34% are using parts ordering software.
What if they're not counting PartsTech as it's integrated into their shop management software?
Maybe. I don't know.
Why would you need an invoicing software?
Is that on there? Oh my goodness. What are you doing? Final word. We're all screwed.
Yeah, I know.
PartsTech. Anyway, if you want to download this, there's a link in the description to download your own copy. And you can read through it and tell us where we're wrong. Leave a comment.